Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of The Problem With. Today we're going to be taking a deep dive into the Old Blood, the new update on Warframe, and we're going to be starting with the literal elephant in the room, Grendel himself. Now, this Warframe, I'm not going to lie, is a bit disappointing upon release. It's kind of almost a bit dead on arrival. Personally, I don't see a point or a reason to him. He doesn't seem to do anything particularly well, and fashioning him is kind of a nightmare. We are going to go into this and we're going to break it down as to why I think this, and just bear in mind that this is my personal opinion to him and why I think these thoughts. You are all, of course, welcome to your own opinion. This is just mine. So why do I feel like he is not ideal as a Warframe? He doesn't really do a lot of damage. He doesn't really tank all that well. And he doesn't really protect anything or buff all that well. So he's not really a good support frame either. Everything just feels like it's a bit of miss, and it is very, very finicky to actually do his abilities. His one, which is a case of eating as many enemies as you can, doesn't really do a lot. But unfortunately, the way that they've made him, you kind of need to do it in order to do the rest of his abilities, which could be kind of fun or not. So the way that you do it is you hold your one to suck an enemy in, and then you can hold one again to suck an enemy out. It really is that simple. This will cost you energy over time, and is unfortunately really the only reason why you need energy, and it will allow you to do the other abilities. The other abilities aren't really all that to shout home about either. His 2 is Nourish. Consume the enemies in Grendel's gut and nourish nearby squad members with a radial buff. Cool. It doesn't really do a huge amount of buffing. The radius is not ideal at base and doesn't really get much better with range mods on him. And for the amount of effort that it takes to swallow an enemy up, get the amount of energy required to cast the ability, and make sure you're in range, it's not really worth the effort. And that's kind of the whole theme with this Warframe. It's really not worth the amount of effort that you have to put in to do each of the tasks at hand. The other issue is, once you run out of energy, you lose you lose your ability. You lose the ability to do it, which means that it does really limit you quite a lot. His 3, again, doesn't really appear to make much difference in game. Regurgitate. Violently puke out a bile-soaked enemy from Grendel's gut, turning the unfortunate creature into a toxic projectile. Great in theory, kind of meh on release. It takes a lot of aiming, and you've got to do it quite quickly in order to get a decent shot off. The area of effect isn't actually that great, and the amount of damage you do is subpar. You don't really do a lot. It's kind of okay for single target, or if you just want to fire enemies around at any given time. But the fact that it takes, again, a lot of effort in order to do this very flashy but very pointless move is kind of disappointing. I would like to see a greater area of effect with this move. Maybe turning the enemy into essentially shotgun shells, which just fire out in a range, maybe a cone effect, would be much better as opposed to a single target missile, which you have to try and aim in a very fast moving environment. The problem is that I feel like this frame just slows the pace of Warframe down quite a lot, and it's very disappointing. And then his 4. His 4 is possibly the most disappointing move, if you like, that I've ever really come across. You kind of roll around in a ball that doesn't do a huge amount of damage, and not for very long, because you have to deal with the fact that you've got to have enemies in your belly to do it. The movement when you're in the ball is difficult, to say the least. It's very slow, it's very cumbersome, and it just feels kind of not very fun to do. If the ball moved faster, or if it was a set circle where you just spin around, not unlike that of Hammond from Overwatch, I feel that would be kind of a lot more fun. And if it drained energy per second as opposed to relying on the amount of enemies you have in your gullet, I think that would mean that you could make a lot more useful and a lot more steadfast builds. On the whole, his moveset is kind of meh. I'm not overly impressed. I think that there are improvements that could be made just to make him have a bit more functionality in game and give him an actual role of either tank or maybe even a damage dealer. You could quite easily make him a tank by making it so that when you absorb an enemy you gain extra armor, not unlike health conversion. Or you could make it, like I said, with his 3, where it does actual damage on an area of effect, cone radius style. So that's it for his moveset. What about his appearance? I'm bringing up his appearance because, to be quite honest, it's kind of a pain to fashion him. As we all know, fashion frame is quite important. The reason why I say his appearance is a problem, mainly, is because with certain type of melees, when they're on his back, they actually clip through his backside. That's not ideal. That doesn't look very good. It's not great when it is on default like that. A lot of people, myself included, are not really willing to sit and move the stuff about to make it so that he is not being clipped through. It takes a lot of work to get it where you need it. And honestly, on default, it shouldn't have to be done. The fact that it clips through the backside is very disappointing indeed. The other problem I've got with him is very simply the amount of trouble you have trying to get any attachment to sort of look right on him. Now, I don't have any attachments on him for that very reason, but everything just kind of looks misplaced, doesn't quite look right, doesn't really suit anything at all that you could have with him. The shape is just kind of wrong and doesn't really make much sense. It's quite disappointing, actually, but this is not just a thing with Grendel. I'm noticing this more and more with a lot of the new frames. It's very difficult to fashion them the way you want to with maybe some of your favourite armor sets because the shaping just isn't right. I don't know whether they need to look at the other armor sets to see if they can maybe reshape them and make them more sculptured so that they fit these new models. But right now, they just don't look very good. They look bulky, they look slapped on as opposed to really fitting the shape of the old Warframes. So that really is my take on Grendel. Not overly impressed by him. I feel like he needs work. I feel like you could really have a very good idea with him and you could have a lot of fun with him, but with his current moveset, it just feels like you're expending a lot of energy and effort and not really getting a lot in return. Thank you very much for watching this video, guys. Hope to see you all next time, where we'll be looking at the new melee system. Ciao, ciao.